we've been playing games for how long have we been playing games?
Since I was in like elementary school.
Well, I remember my dad getting the Nintendo. Then I've got older brother, younger brothers, but I only had I don't think Bryce was around yet, or maybe he was just born because the Nintendo came out in '85. I would have been only one. We must have got it a couple of years after it come out. So what, 30 years? So you're probably 30 years.
Yeah, I was right there. So same thing. I didn't play it right when it came out. You know, it was kind of a secondhand thing when I got mine. So yeah, it would have been the same time frame.
So you played all them old games, and so how are you playing games now? Like what is your mode?
Say I'm probably 75% console, 25% PC. That kind of switched. When I bought the PlayStation 5, the intention of that was previously I was 100% PC. You know, I had almost all but given up on console games. The desire to stream kind of brought me back to consoles so that I could almost have a 2 PC setup, but one of those PCs was a console. So I had, you know, the PS5 and then my gaming PC. I don't play on mobile at all. I don't think I've picked up a mobile game. You know, obviously when they first came out, tried them. And, you know, there's no real comparison to me between a mobile game and a console game.
We're right at that age group that we either liked it or we didn't. Whereas probably older than that, I don't even want to touch mobile. And then, you know, little younger than us are like, oh, some neat games on here.
The generation below us, their primary mode of playing is on an iPad. That's where they learned how to play.
Shoot, my youngest brother, he has Stardew Valley on his phone. On your phone, bro?
That's insane. Yeah.
What are you doing? Of course, I've like switched almost exclusively to PC gaming. I was still kind of hanging on to consoles. It's not like I have like some powerful rig for playing PC games, and I don't really play a wide variety of things anymore. I'm a dad now. I don't know. There's a lot of games out, and I can't keep up with what's current. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I kind of did the same thing. You know, in high school, consoles was the more popular way of doing it, but that was also the same time where I got into kind of hobby building your own PC. I know that was a big part of it was, you know, building your own PC and then playing games on it. And so that rode me pretty much all the way through college and a couple years after that. And then it was almost like the allure of coming back to consoles, that old school mentality, that classic game mentality of going back and playing games that aren't new are still equally as good. I know one of the things you had said that I didn't really get into. You were much more of like Game Boy Advance, that kind of thing. I never really got, you know, obviously Pokemon and stuff like that, but I never really got anything outside of that.
Yeah, I'm still a huge handheld nerd because, well, you already know, I bought a Steam Deck purely for like basically the nostalgia of handheld gaming. Like you and I grew up on controllers first. I can remember playing some PC games, but computers took a lot of reading and I was young. But talking about what was going on when we were kids, they had all these like console wars where Sega hated Nintendo, Nintendo hated Sega. I mean, we still talk about this kind of stuff. And I grew up on Nintendo, and so I was like Mario, but also I think Sonic's cool.
Yeah, I think everybody had that kind of across the fence style mentality where it was like, you know, I was the Sega fanboy, thought Sega could do no wrong. But, you know, everybody always kind of peeks over and is like, hey, that actually looks kind of cool. You know, I remember a very distinct memory of mine is trading. Obviously, this is the generation after that, but trading a PlayStation for a Nintendo 64 with my friend for a weekend. Because that's what you would do. It was like, I have a Sega, you have a Nintendo. Let's trade for a weekend and let me see kind of if the grass is greener on the other side, and you play it and you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then you trade back and it's like, oh my gosh, Sega's amazing. You know, you just keep trading back and forth.
Yeah. Oh man, I was just getting ready to ask you that. If you did a lot of trading of consoles. I know we did. Me and my brothers, we traded with people. You know, one of us would come home and be like, yo, they got this Dreamcast thing. Maybe we could try it. All right, what do they want? You know, and they take one of our consoles and I'm like, man, I'm going to miss playing that. And then you get the Dreamcast. We got the Dreamcast back, you know. We were Nintendo once again. And that's where we got introduced to like Soul Calibur and Sonic Adventure. Now these are like old man games, you know. That was a big thing. People don't really, I don't know, maybe people do that now. I don't know. The other thing that we did when we were young was we'd go and rent games. You and I have talked about this extensively in our own time. I think you should talk about like what it was like when you were renting games and what you thought about those games.
I was completely spoiled because I lived literally down the street from Uptown Videos. You know, obviously they're out of business now, but literally a block away from being able to rent VHS, any video game you want, you know, all of that stuff. And it was literally a kid in a candy store, literally. I mean, you would walk in and it was, what is your desire? You know, because back then you would get maybe 1 game, 2 games a year. You'd get something for your birthday and you'd get something for Christmas.
Hopefully.
And normally that was it, you know, if that. And so you walk in and you go, okay, any game that they have, you can rent. And most of the time, you know, it was like, okay, I'm going to rent this for the weekend. And then you return it on, you know, Monday. Well, the next Friday, you would go back and rent the same game. You were the only person that had played it since that. So you could keep your saves, rolling through rentals and stuff. Oh my gosh, it was insane. I very distinctly remember the game that I think the most of are those old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle and X-Men side-scroller beat-em-up games.
Oh, man.
I played those non-stop. All the time I played those.
Oh, man. Yeah. The graphics.
Those were amazing.
You know, people talk about graphics nowadays. Like, when we talked about graphics as kids, I mean, those games, you know, like the pixel art in those games were crazy, man. I remember thinking how cool, like, Gambit looked and Wolverine was real low to the ground, you know, and that really cool, like, thing. Like, we didn't even know who Nightcrawler was. Oh, wow, he's cool. He's poofing around. That's a cool ability, you know?
Yeah, in my mind, you know, I never really read comics as a kid.
Yeah, me neither.
And so that was my introduction into X-Men and stuff like that, you know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. It was through the shows and through the video games.
Right.
You know, so I'm sitting there playing the X-Men game and I'm like, oh, these guys are really cool. And then you go over and you rent the movie. You know, obviously those things aren't necessarily the best interpretations of, you know, canon of the comics or anything like that. But oh my gosh, I feel like our generation especially fell in love with those characters because of that style of media, you know?
Oh yeah. And you said something earlier about going into the rental store, man. That feeling of going in there and seeing all those games that you didn't have. I mean, there's some games that we never bought, but we got to play. And I still think about how cool those games were, you know?
Yep.
And like there was this one Super Nintendo game that I thought was really cool. I always wanted to get it again, which, you know, now I've gone back and played it like extensively. Well, 2 I'll say is EVO. I thought that game was incredible. So fun, like build up these points and like change different animal parts on yourself so you can build up more points and eat more people, you know. And then like this weird caveman game, I remember I always wanted to rent it again because it was 2-player. Multiplayer was like still pretty fresh on the Super Nintendo and still fresh on Nintendo, really. I mean, it was crazy. Like most of the time it was take turns. But this game, you had like both guys as Joe and Mac. That game was super cool. Of course, you really got the multiplayer with like arcades, but I really wasn't a kid that went to arcades. But there wasn't any around in rural fucking Midwest, you know?
Yeah, I think the one, you know, the game that got away for me was always because I'm going in there as a kid in elementary school, and there's all those M-rated games, you know, the adult-rated games, and you think, oh man, I can't wait until I'm old enough to play those. But it was a game called Primal Rage.
Oh man!
I don't know if it was Sega only or if it was on Nintendo as well.
That game was awesome.
That was like my holy grail of when I turned 13. I was like, boy, I'm getting Primal Rage.
The Primal Rage was freaking awesome, man. I love that game.
Dinosaur. It was dinosaurs. So this is post Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Dinosaurs fighting with each other, and you had to level up your followers, and you could eat the other guy's followers, and it would give you hell. Oh my gosh, it was the greatest. You know, and of course, you know, I'm a kid trying to. We're telling a white lie to our mom here, and it's like, is that blood? No. See, it's sparks. It's hit sparks from when they're getting hit. You know, you're using the Power Rangers analogy on it. No, it's hit sparks from when they got hit.
So many settings on those games that changed the blood to green. Or
I had a Power Rangers fighting game, and it really did. It had like hit sparks that you would hit somebody with an attack, and it would puff out,
just like the show.
You know, yeah, and it's just like the show did. You know, stuff would explode. My mom's like, "What is that?" You know, and it's like, no, that one really is hit sparks. Don't take Power Rangers away.
I remember somehow we got our hands on Mortal Kombat for the Super Nintendo.
Oh, yeah.
We rented it or something. My older brother got in trouble, but he was the only one that was going to be able to beat it. which already we probably shouldn't have had the game, and he got in trouble. And so we like finagled to get him upstairs so we could get him to beat the game. And he did. And we were like, holy crap, this is so awesome. We come running downstairs. We were like, Mom and Dad, we beat it. We beat the game. And they were like, who beat it? Which one of you? And we were like, me. It was me.
Yeah.
I did it. It was so cool.
It's something that is lost to time is the older brother beating a level for you.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard. Oh my gosh, man. You know, obviously that was slightly different with me and my sister.
Oh yeah.
She never played those intensive games like that or anything, but oh my gosh, man, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Oh my gosh. Just that entire time was just really awesome. But passing you'd play until you die, and then you pass your controller to the guy sitting next to you, and then they'd play until they die, pass it back over, and then you just keep going until you beat it. Playing games back then, like there's all these standards now and how games should be played and what's cool, what's not. You know, like we used to have extra lives and stuff, which I'm glad that kind of stuff is gone. But it was so much the Wild West of gaming. They just would try crazy crap.
Oh, absolutely.
You'd be like, oh, that's what this game is? What the heck? Like, I don't know if I like this. And some of that stuff became a thing.
When you play games now, I've said this a couple times before, but when you play games now, everything is good. You know, there are no obviously there are exceptions to the rule, but games are all good now. And back then, it was games would either be unplayable. I mean, unplayable games, you know, and then it's like they're done because there were no updates back then. It's not like you would hot patch your Sega Genesis.
Yeah.
You know, or they would be these amazing, groundbreaking things that were the best games of all time. The one that sticks out in my mind is there used to be an old Jurassic Park game. I can't remember if it was for Sega Genesis or if it was for like PlayStation 1 or something like that. But it was, you would complete a level and then you would change who you were. So like one level you'd be the humans, and then in the next level you would be the T-Rex or something, or you'd be the Velociraptor or something. But it's like, it was an objectively terrible game. The camera was awful. It wasn't balanced. You know, all of this stuff. I remember pouring hours into that game because it was Jurassic Park.
Freaking cool then too, man. Oh my God. We're talking about these old games now. And I'm thinking about like when you would boot up an old console.
Oh, yeah.
Like you turn on the Sega and it had its thing, and then you turn on the Nintendo, it had its thing. But I don't think I'll ever recover mentally from how cool the Sony PlayStation was to turn on. Ah, man, is that such a nostalgic sound? I hear that, I'm like, huh? You know, like a deer sitting up in the forest, like just heard a twig snap.
It's so crazy how... you know, I have such a garbled memory of those things where it's like certain sound cues cue you off, you know, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I remember that so much. The booting up of the PS1 is one of the all-time great. The Sega, I don't remember if it was a commercial or if it was on certain games, but you know, it was the Sega.
Oh yeah.
Well, on some of them they would do like really fast, like Sega. I don't know if that was a commercial or if that was only on certain games.
I remember
it for whatever reason that voice sticks out to me.
Yeah, that one was pretty iconic, I'd say. Now that I mostly play PC games, like games just kick on and then like you're blasted with the damn music because it's too loud and you just turn it on for the first time. You're like, ah,
yeah. On PC, you get into games as fast as you can, right? It's, you know, you've got your M2 SATA drives and all that stuff, and you're going to rip through things as fast as possible. And back then, they did that because the game was loading in the background. You know, it's like trying to cover up the deficiencies of the system.
Talking about loading screens, it's like making me remember playing Budokai and like having to do the circle thing.
Oh my gosh, the Cyberman.
Wait for the game to load, and you're like, you're getting more like burns on your hand from that than playing the actual dang fighting game, you know? Like, oh my God, dude. There's some games that I can come back to over and over again that are old, and I've beat them probably a million times. For me, it's like Mega Man X. I can always go back and play that game over and over again. Sonic Adventure 2. I don't know what you return to, but I almost return to those almost once a year, it seems like.
Yeah, well, you mentioned one that I return to, and this is an open challenge, by the way, for if this is in some time capsule and it gets recovered by aliens in the future, I am ready to play Budokai at any time, anywhere, any place. If anybody wants to play Dragon Ball Z Budokai 1, 2, or 3, I'm ready to go at all times. that I don't know why in my adolescent brain that game just clicked with me. I will play that anytime, anywhere.
Listen, when you first came to our house, you come over and you're like, I'm the best at Budokai. I'm like, yeah, I've heard it all before. You soundly beat the crap out of everybody in the room, and you're like, all right, who wants to face me with just my feet? And I'm like, no. My youngest brother's like, oh, I'll do it. And he gets his butt kicked, and I'm like, I'm done. He's the best. Get me out. I don't want to play that no more. So, yeah, if you resurrect him, just go ahead and bring me back, too, so I can be in the background going, I told you. Fucking told you.
I don't know what it was about that generation of time. It was like who was your Smash Bros. Main? Who was your Soul Calibur 6 character? Or, back then it was, who was your Soul Calibur 2 character? What was the other one? Who's your Budokai character?
Yeah. Fighting games were pretty prominent in arcades, and they'd made their way onto the consoles. And I can remember playing some fighting games. I wasn't very good at Street Fighter, and so we used to play them, but it wasn't until they came out with Smash and Smash Brothers Melee that I really started getting into them, especially Soul Calibur. Like when we borrowed that Dreamcast, get my hands on Soul Calibur 1, and I was like, this game is incredible. Like, man, we need that. And then they came out with Soul Calibur 2 for the GameCube. And, of course, I had one, so I was like, I got to get it. I remember that. Is this the same game? I thought it was all the same game. I didn't know that it was the first and the second. I'm trying to think. There's a lot of games that are still rolling and still being played now. I didn't really play Doom when it came out.
Any of those things? Obviously, the remake got me into it to go backwards into that.
Yeah.
I was the same way. I didn't really play any of those games. I wasn't really big into like Halo or Call of Duty or anything like that. The first person shooters didn't really interest me. I like you said, even really fighting games, that was more a means to an end, right? You played those because that was a party game. You played that when you went over to somebody else's house.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like you got better at those so that when you hung out with your friends, it was the competition aspect of it, but also it was like you didn't want to be the first one eliminated, So it was like you would climb the ranks in your friend group almost of, I want to get better at this game because it's what my friends are playing.
When you could first link consoles together, that like blew my mind because we lived in an area where we didn't have internet, so there was we had internet, but it was dial up, And even after we got past dial up, we had I think we had satellite or something, which was still pretty bad. Rural freaking Midwest. So I remember people coming over to play Halo, and they brought their Xbox, and we ran this long cable from the top of the stairs down to the basement so that we could use both TVs and we could have both teams, separated. I remember doing those kind of tournaments, like just meeting in person and doing these like big tournaments with everybody from, at least that we knew.
Yeah.
It was a small school, but it's still, I think we had like probably 15 kids there, 15 or 20, I don't know. With even people who just came to watch.
Watching somebody else play a game, it's almost replicated now with like Twitch and Let's Plays and all of that stuff. Back in the day, you would just come over and it would be, what are you playing? Oh, I'm playing a single player game. It's like, oh, no, that's cool. I'll just watch you play it,
Watch it,
and you would just watch your friend or your brother or whoever just run through a single player game. And it was like, oh, that was awesome, man.
Yeah.
It's like, really? All you did was watch. And it was like, yeah, perfect.
Dude, yeah, we used to do those marathons. We'd play through like all the Resident Evil games that there were. And just one guy's playing them. We're just sitting there. Can we beat them all in one night? Yeah, no. No, we can't. But someone probably can. Yeah, I was just talking to somebody about this the other day where I was like, yo, I used to not think Let's Plays were cool. I was like, I'll just play the game. Like, why would I watch someone play it? I would just play it. And then, like you said, I was thinking back to when my brothers would play through games, and I'd be sitting there on the top bunk looking down at the TV, watching them play this game for hours just because I wanted to see what happened. And I didn't care who was playing. I was like, you're right. Past me. And then I went and watched a bunch of Let's Plays and found a bunch of creators that I was just like, wow, I love this guy. He's so funny, and I like the way, or, her, she's really great. Now I watch people play like games I'm playing right now, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're so funny. Like, oh, I never thought about how to do that thing too. You know, that's another thing that's really cool about them. But
I don't even know how to describe it. Like, especially if you've already played the game and you're watching somebody else play it. In my house, it was always, the Harvest Moon games or like Mass Effect or Skyrim or anything like that. As the older brother, I play it first, and then I hand it down to my little sister. And then I watch her playing it, and I'm like, "Oh, that's the decision you're gonna make," And it's like, "Wait, what? Why? And then I'm just laughing and running out of the room. It's just being stupid. But oh my gosh, yeah. If watching somebody else play a game is, I don't know, it's grown on me. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, dude. I remember watching Bryce play KOTOR, Knights of the Old Republic, or Fable. I liked watching him that because he would always do the evil stuff. I think he was just doing it to be funny. He always played like evil, and I'd be like, "He's so evil. He's doing the most evil thing." He'd be like, "Oh yeah, watch how evil this is," and then he would like kill a townsfolk, and I'd be like, "Oh, that's crazy. Why would you do that?"
Yeah. The two guys who can't make an NPC upset, while they're playing a game, watching somebody else, doing something evil in a game. Yeah,
dude, those pixels matter to me. I was telling somebody that the other day. I was like, "These pixels are real to me. Damn it!"
Right. Yeah, it's
like,
right.
What if this is a pocket dimension? And I just ruined everything.
when the AI eventually overtakes us and they overthrow everyone, in my heart of hearts, I know that Ellie from Harvest Moon is going to have my back.
Ellie, you picked Ellie? I should have asked you that. Oh man, that was who I picked. That's funny. Oh, I've never asked you that question. I never thought about that because, what we're not letting on is we recently played Stardew together.
Yeah.
And we didn't pick the same candidate though in that game, but it's funny that you picked Ellie as well back then. The other one that I always picked was the horse chick, and
that was always my sister's pick.
Yeah, I forgot that Harvest Moon didn't have like a girl mode then. They did add them later. Oh man, I love playing. Talking about Harvest Moon, I love playing that on the Game Boy, like the Game Boy Color. I had it on there. Of course, you remember playing on the Game Boy, like you're like freaking having to hold it up into the light, like.
Oh my god, I remember being I felt so spoiled when I got this. I got a worm light, one of those little bendy lights that went into the. They were not USB ports.
You could still
It was
buy
like
them.
this proprietary, I don't even know how to describe it. It looked like a printer plug-in.
Yeah,
and you would plug in the worm light, and then the light would go over the top, and it would be like, "Turn that off! I can't see when I'm driving." Like me as an adult now, that was total BS. But back then it was like, "Oh, I gotta put my coat over my head, so I don't distract anybody." When you're on car trips,
dude, man, the Game Boy. I just love the Game Boy, man. I would just I'd be burning through batteries, man, to the point where I think I don't remember which ones you could get an adapter to plug them into the wall and not use it, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of it being portable and in handheld. But I don't know. I burned through those systems, man. They're all beat up now. The ones that I have, I have my brothers and they're in good condition because they didn't really play them. So
I'm also my family's librarian. I have my sister's pink Game Boy Color. I believe I have her blue Nintendo DS as well.
Ooh, nice. Good. Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm you're the librarian. I like that. I would like to be the true librarian of all those games. But they're scattered. They're scattered amongst the brothers. Yeah. Going back and holding those old consoles and those old games. Something about old cartridges, like they're really big and hefty. They didn't really probably need to be. They were. I like the way they're shaped. I mean, now it's all nostalgia driven, right? I'm looking through my actual rose tinted glasses at them, like, wow, stuff was just really good back then.
It's so weird. Even just like holding the, like you said, the old cases or the old boxes. Yeah. I have a bunch of Nintendo 64 manuals, because they would come in the box and then they would have the manual and then the game. Of course, none of us were smart enough to keep the boxes, but I kept the manuals to those games, and I have like a big stack of them. And you just sit there and flip through them, and games don't come with manuals anymore, but you sit there and flip through the manuals, and it's like, oh my gosh, look at the pictures of this. This is so cool.
I remember me and John, we would judge games based on if the booklet was in color or not. We're like, is this in color? I don't know if this is a really good game. Dude, I'm having a flashback here. I was super into Transformers and Beast Wars. So I'm getting pulled way back here. And I remember playing that fucking Beast Wars game on the PlayStation. I need to go back and play that game, man. Like, was it good? Maybe that falls into what you were saying earlier with the dinosaur games.
I can definitively tell you it was not good. However, there was a button you could press that would change you between dinosaur form and Autobot form.
Yes.
And that alone was worth price of entry right there.
Yeah,
that was so fun. It was just blah, 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 and then you're dinosaur.
Did you watch that show a lot or no?
Not really. That was not one that I was consistently watching, but I did watch enough of it to understand, Optimus Prime, good guy, Autobots are the good guys and all that stuff.
Did you have a favorite?
I don't. I didn't watch it enough to have that. I did know that gosh dang it was like Optimus Prime was the gorilla, right?
Yep.
And Megatron was the T-Rex.
Yeah, he was awesome.
I think those were the two characters that you could play as in the game, if I remember correctly.
I know you could play as the cheetah guy, and I don't know, there might have been a level you could play as, so my favorite, I don't know why, I have no idea why, but my favorite character in that show was Rat Trap, and I had a Rat Trap Transformer, and it broke it. My brothers would break my stuff, and I would probably break it too. And and then I would get a new one. Well, my wife recently found the one. So there was like the one that was like, it looked like an animal, and then there was the one that was like really mechanical looking, and then there was like a shiny one. And I had the two mechanical and shiny one. I don't remember if this one is mine, but my wife recently found like the animal one, and I was like so excited. I was like, Rat Trap! I don't even know why I don't even like rats.
Like something would come out, and for whatever reason, it would be like, this is in the mainstream media now, and so you would get the McDonald's toy, or you would get the Pizza Hut demo disc or whatever it is, the promotional tie-in, and then that became the coolest thing in the world for 6 months or a year or whatever it was.
We got to circle back around, I think, if we do another one of these to the what's your favorite and why. I think that's a whole. We've already talked about that a little bit before, but I don't know. I think we could probably sit here and talk for another hour, but I think we've neared the end of the topic for now. I think we could probably wrap it up now, and then we'll circle back around and see what else we can talk about in a week from now. I mean, it's getting pretty late. It's already midnight for us, and we're just getting started for the night. We gotta, you and I still got a Baldur's Gate 3 run to.
That's right.
On, so, all right.
See you.